Imagine the things that we do every day. Working on a computer, driving a car, eating a meal. Simple things to be sure. But for John Foppe, nothing is simple.
I'm sure that many of you are sitting there and you're wondering to yourself, how does this guy do it? How does he do the day-to-day things in his life that I sometimes have problems doing with my own 2 hands and 10 fingers? Well, basically the answer to most of the questions that are going through your mind is that I use my feet for everything that you use your hands for. There's not a special school that you can go to learn how to use your feet. It's just that the human body has an incredible capacity to adapt. And I've learned in my life that there really are no unsolvable problems in this world of ours. There just are an awful lot of problems out there in life that haven't been solved yet. Cheers.
Starting his life with the odds already stacked against him, John's family had no idea if he would ever be able to live normally. They had lots of questions.
What if he's not accepted by his peers? How's he going to eat? How's he going to get dressed? How's he going to fend for his day-to-day needs? But most of all, they just asked an awful lot of why questions. Why did this have to happen to us? But somehow, they hold together, my family and community, to help me begin to adapt to my adversity so that I could achieve as I went throughout my life.
That adaptation might never have happened at all had it not been for his family. A change had to occur within John himself. For the first time in his life, he experienced tough love.
Tough love, that self-respect for yourself and for your dreams, is the fuel that keeps us going. And without that, we give up. And you see, that's what I didn't have. That's what my parents were trying to get me to discover. And in the days that followed, it was horrible. I was in the bedroom all alone, trying to figure out how to get dressed. I threw my pants onto the floor and I stepped into the legs. And then I laid my naked back onto the floor and I put my feet up into the air so that the pants would drop to my hips. And then I hobbled over to the dresser and tried to tippy-toe up and hook the belt loop of the pants on the knob of the dresser drawer so I could hook it on and then maybe pull the pants up over my hips. Of course, being a lot shorter, it was hard to reach it. And if it did reach, then when I finally pulled on it, maybe it would snag, but oftentimes it ripped, and then the pants would fall back down, and the frustration starting to build. So it's back down on my feet again, feet up in the air. Now I'm starting to sweat out of the frustration. The carpet's itching my back. Now my skin is clammy, and these pants aren't moving as nicely as they should. And so it's a constant wrestling and a fighting with them, trying to figure out how in the heck did this get dressed? How am I supposed to do this? I can't do this. There's just no way. The sweat is just burning in my eyes. Out on the other side of the room, I know that there are people, my family, who can come in there and help me, but they won't. I'm feeling totally rejected, absolutely abandoned, and then all that hatred and all that pity just starts spewing forth, and I didn't know why they wouldn't come in. I didn't know where God was, and life wasn't fair, and I hated this, and the more I thought, the more frustrated I became, and it wasn't working, and being naked and all itchy and everything. And the snot started flowing out of my nose, the sweat pouring down out of my face, and finally I just fell to the floor in total exhaustion. I was curled up into a fetal position on the floor in a pool of sweat. I was beaten. It was the loneliest moment of my life. I became tapped out emotionally. I wasn't mad, I wasn't glad, I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad. I couldn't feel anymore. And as I laid there, shivering and soaked in sweat and tears, I caught a glimpse of myself off the reflection that was on the mirror on the closet door. And I saw how pathetic I looked there, laying naked. And I knew that I had to change. And it was somewhere in that moment that I finally opened my heart to God. And it was though I heard him say, "You know, if you just shut up a minute, I think I can help you here."
This is his life, his story, and most importantly, his message. In his own frank and often humorous way, John tells us how he learned to accept his limitations and how we can also make the absolute most of what we've been given.
Our only real handicaps are those mental and emotional ones that prevent us from participating fully in life. Things like pity, anger, fear, guilt, doubt, prejudice, ignorance, anything that's going to cloud your thinking and harden your heart and throw you back on the sidelines where I was as a little kid, thinking that it can't be done.
John knows we all have limitations, but he also knows that they don't have to stop us.
I don't care if I spent all darn day out on some golf course with Tiger Woods. Chances are my golf game is never going to improve. Let's say you and I were on that Survivor show, and we're stranded on some desert island, and you suddenly need CPR. You're out of luck. I mean, I suppose I could try one of these breathe, sucker, breathe. Are there limits? You bet there are limits. But you never know what those limits are until you're willing to push them as far as they can go.
John has tried to harness his energy into being the best that he can be and not let a negative attitude dictate his life. His education in clinical social work and his experience as a professional speaker give him unique insight on motivating others. He is trained under the tutelage of world-renowned motivator Zig Ziglar, with whom he has worked for over 10 years. He has written a book, What's Your Excuse? Making the Most of What You Have. But John's greatest joy has been marrying the love of his life, his wife, Christine. And yes, he proudly wears a wedding ring. John is an authority on changing attitudes, either our own or others. He delivers authentic and empowering messages on those challenges that only our attitudes can solve. Attitudes like doing more with less, embracing diversity, living integrity, and coping with change.
Every day presents new challenges all the time. At each stage of life, there are new challenges. If any of us say that we have arrived, that we have achieved, that we are on top, that's a very dangerous position to put ourselves in psychologically. Because it is in that precise moment of arrogance when the winds of change blow along and knock us off of our pedestal. And so it's really about understanding that things always change.
John has spoken to countless organizations, businesses, and schools, bringing them his message of perseverance, growth, and achieving success through simple plans of action. In fact, even Super Bowl winning football coach Jimmy Johnson called on John to help motivate his team and get the most out of his players. You'll be intrigued with what John is able to do, but before you realize what has happened, you'll stop looking at him and start looking at yourself.
We have to die to the way things would have been, could have been, and should have been in our lives. Condition, a word that I think accurately describes my situation. Self-pity happens when we have the resources in front of us to deal with our condition. We just don't have the motivation. It's okay to be down. There's going to be times when the conditions are going to be so painful you're going to be down. But it's not okay to stay down.
This hasn't changed. This never will. Many of the strategies for success don't come in fancy packages or some long algebraic formula.
The ultimate form of tough love is valuing yourself enough, loving yourself enough to change your life.
For more information on having John Foppe speak to your audience, please view the contact information on the back of this tape. You may also visit www.johnfoppe.com.